let's talk about Scotland, because what we witnessed the other night was one of those performances that just throws every bit of expectation out the window. Going into the match against Greece, let's be honest, the mood was flat. The fan base wasn't exactly buzzing, and even the release of the meeting minutes earlier that day had folks even more frustrated with the state of things around the national setup. But then the game happened, and it turned into something no one saw coming. Now, if you were one of those fans who tuned in late, maybe missed the first hour or so, you probably thought it was just another cagey, low-scoring affair. 0-0, not much happening. But from the moment that first goal went in, it was like Scotland flipped a switch. 3 goals in half an hour, and a complete collapse from the Greek side. And let's not ignore it. A monumental howler from the Greek goalkeeper, one of the worst you'll see at Hampton. Absolute gift. It looked like the kind of error that lives forever in highlight reels, and not the good kind. But credit to Scotland. You don't win games like that by accident. For all the criticism that's been thrown at Steve Clarke, and believe me, there's been plenty, he got this one right. Maybe not perfect in the first half, sure, but the game plan eventually worked. He kept the team in the match long enough to wear the Greeks down, and when the chances came, Scotland pounced. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't total domination, but it was clever and, more importantly, it was effective. And that's something we've not always been able to say recently. What stood out most was how the team responded under pressure. Even going 1-0 down, you didn't see heads drop. That goal from Ryan Christie, sharp, composed, crucial, completely shifted the momentum. From that point on, Greece looked shell-shocked. They couldn't put passes together, couldn't handle the press, and looked like a side that just wanted the final whistle. Scotland smelled blood and went for it. And here's the thing. This wasn't a Scotland team filled with stars. This was a team still trying to find rhythm, still trying to build confidence. But they played like a group that believed they could turn it around. That matters. That belief, that fight, is exactly what had been missing in recent outings. And maybe, just maybe, this was the performance to remind everyone what this squad is capable of when it clicks. Now, obviously, we have to talk about the Greek goalkeeper, because that error was on another level. It's the kind of mistake that feels like it exists just to haunt you later. You just know, somehow, this guy will rock up at Celtic Park in the near future, pull off a 10 out of 10 performance, and keep a clean sheet. That's the way it always goes, isn't it? Goalies crumble elsewhere and then suddenly become world-class when they're up against us. But back to Scotland. There's a weird calm about this result. It wasn't just that they won, it's how they did it. It felt mature, tactical. They absorbed the pressure, waited for the game to open up, and then finished it with authority. That's not something we're used to saying often about the national team. Usually it's chaos or last-minute heartache, but this time, it felt controlled. And that's a credit to Clarke, whether his critics want to admit it or not. Liam McLeod called it a pickpocket masterclass, and that's a great way to put it. Scotland didn't boss the game from minute one. They just waited for the right time to strike, and when they did, Greece had no response. You could feel the crowd shift too. All that frustration and skepticism in the stands started to turn into belief again. And honestly, fair play to the players. That wasn't an easy night. There were nerves, there was pressure, and still, they delivered. Kieran Tierney coming on late was another major positive. He's had his critics lately, no doubt, and a few of them fair. But when he stepped onto the pitch, he looked sharp, composed. That run down the left side where he skipped past a couple of players and helped launch an attack. That's what we've been missing. Small moments like that can completely change a player's confidence. And with Tierney, you can see he just needs a run of games. Because the ability? Still there. No question. You've also got to give a nod to Ben Doak. Didn't have a headline-making performance, but he showed flashes. That long crossfield pass early on showed his vision, and even after the mistake leading up to the Greece goal, he didn't hide. He kept playing, kept pushing. That's what you want to see from young guys trying to break into this setup. Confidence, resilience, keep showing up. So now, the focus shifts. Belarus is next. Win that, and suddenly the pressure is off a bit. But what's really looming large are the two big ones coming up, Greece away and Denmark at home. Those are the games that'll define this campaign. And if Scotland can find results in those, then it's not wild to start dreaming. The next major tournament could be real, and the idea of trips to the US isn't just fan talk anymore. Flights might start getting booked sooner than you think. The reality is this: Scotland looked good. Not perfect, not dazzling, but solid. clinical. And after the past few months of worry, criticism, and second-guessing, this was exactly what the team and the fans needed. It doesn't fix everything, but it changes the mood. And in international football, momentum is everything. So now we watch, we wait, and we hope that this was more than just a flash. Because if Scotland can carry this level into the next few matches, things might just get exciting again. Now let's shift the conversation to something that's been brewing off the pitch. And it's not just fans grumbling online or a few moans from the stands. We're talking about genuine frustration, a growing disconnect between the Celtic board and the people who fill the stadium by the shirts and live and breathe the club every single day. The minutes released from the meeting between the Celtic board and the fans collective dropped like a bomb. And let's be honest, they didn't inspire much confidence. If anything, they poured petrol on the fire. The reaction from the fans who've read those notes, listened to the pods, and tried to make sense of it all has been one of disbelief. Not because the board is being secretive, we expect that now, but because even when they're face-to-face with the supporters, there's still no accountability. No responsibility. Just deflection, excuses, and what feels like total detachment from reality. When the CEO of your club is shrugging his shoulders in response to direct questions, you've got a serious problem. Take that club signings issue, for example. Fans asked directly why Brendan Rodgers referred to some players as club signings. A pretty loaded phrase, especially in the context of how things have been going. The answer? Nothing. No clarity, no real explanation. Just silence and another shrug. That tells you everything. There's a clear disconnect between the manager and the recruitment team, and rather than face it head-on and reassure the fans, the club acts like it's none of our business. And that's the root of it all, really. This constant sense that the fans are being talked down to, like they're lucky to even be acknowledged. The club seems to think communication is the issue, that if they just explain themselves better, everyone would get on board. But it's not the communication that's the core problem. It's the decisions. It's the poor planning, the reactive transfers, the injuries piling up, the half-empty answers, and the stadium that's slowly falling apart while they claim we're a world-class football club in everything we do. Let's be brutally honest here. Celtic are not world-class right now. Not in European performances, not in transfer strategy, and certainly not in how they treat their own supporters. That stadium? It's decaying. Fans have been saying it for years. Toilets are in a state, the infrastructure's old, the paint's peeling, and there's no real plan in sight to fix any of it. But because they renovated a dressing room and maybe spruced up a corridor somewhere, we're supposed to applaud them and pretend like we're Real Madrid. The atmosphere in that meeting sounded toxic in the quietest way possible. Fans went in there trying to engage, trying to be heard, to have a conversation about how to improve things. And instead, what they got was stonewalling, technical jargon, and a boardroom echo chamber that seems to genuinely believe everything is fine. That's the scary part. This isn't even about PR anymore. It's about whether or not the people running the club even understand what the real problems are. There's a moment that sums it all up, when asked why transfer business is always done late, putting the team at risk in European qualifiers. The board pointed to the signings of Kwan and Negrin. 2 players. That's their defense. Not the fact that half the positions we were desperate to fill in the summer window weren't sorted until it was far too late. Not the fact that we went into massive games undercooked. Just those 2 names, as if it wipes the slate clean. And it's not just about missed signings or slow negotiations. It's about the bigger picture. The long-term footballing strategy that the fans asked about. The answer was that it's clearly communicated through things like the annual report and the fans forum. That's not real communication. That's hiding behind bureaucracy. And the fact that so few supporters even know these reports exist should say everything you need to know about how clear that strategy really is. Supporters want to feel like the club shares their ambition, that they're not just here to make up the numbers in Europe or to coast to a league title and pat themselves on the back. They want to feel like the people in charge care as much as they do. And the sad truth is, right now, that faith is cracking. You've got fans talking seriously about boycotting merchandise, skipping cup games, not buying tickets for European nights. Not because they don't want to support the team, but because they genuinely believe it's the only language the board understands. When you're left with no other tools to make your voice heard, you take the one thing they care about, revenue. That's where this is headed, and it's not a threat, it's a reality. Even more frustrating is the tone of the meeting, not just what was said, but how it was said. One phrase stood out more than any other. "We'll look into it." That was the response when serious concerns were raised, including questions about damaging tabloid stories and internal issues. "We'll look into it." It's the corporate version of "shut up and wait." It's the line they always use when they have no intention of acting. And fans know it. There's this constant feeling that the board doesn't see the fans as partners or stakeholders or even customers. Just noise. Just a distraction. But the reality is, without that support, without the passion, the money, the loyalty, there is no Celtic. You can't operate like this forever. Eventually, something has to give. And when your own CEO refuses to appear even in safe, in-house club interviews, when he can't address the support in a scripted video, what message does that send? The lack of leadership is obvious. The lack of urgency is obvious. And most importantly, the lack of respect is obvious. Fans aren't asking for miracles. They're asking for transparency, a proper plan, and a board that acts like it actually gives a damn. Because when the only people who ever face the music are the manager and the players, something's broken at the top. Where does this go next? No one really knows. The collective says they'll regroup, speak with supporters, and decide on the next steps. But make no mistake, this is not blowing over. The performance against Greece gave fans a lift, but it's only a temporary distraction. The real issues still need fixing, and unless the board wakes up soon, they're going to find themselves in a fight they can't PR their way out of. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Rumors are swirling around Glasgow once again, and this time it's Celtic who appear to be making all the noise. Word on the street is that the Parkhead Giants have set their sights firmly on Hearts' reliable defender Stephen Kingsley, with whispers suggesting a deal could already be in the works. While neither club has confirmed anything publicly, sources close to both sides have hinted that Celtic are preparing to make Kingsley their next key signing, a move that could tighten their already iron grip on Scottish football. Kingsley, a solid and technically gifted left-back, has been one of the standout performers for the Jambos in recent seasons. Known for his pinpoint crosses and calmness under pressure, he's been instrumental in Hearts' steady presence near the top half of the Premiership. But with Celtic looking to strengthen their defensive options ahead of a packed European calendar, the 30-year-old might just be the perfect fit for Brendan Rodgers' plans. Talks of a potential switch began to gather pace after Kingsley was spotted in Glasgow last weekend, sparking chatter among supporters and pundits alike. Some claim he was meeting with representatives connected to Celtic, while others insist it was all coincidence. Either way, the rumor mill is churning at full speed, and fans are desperate to know if there's any truth behind the noise. If the move goes through, it would be seen as another statement of intent from the Hoops, a show of dominance not just over their rivals in the league table, but also in the transfer market. Kingsley's experience, leadership, and consistency would add yet another layer of depth to a squad already brimming with quality. For now, Celtic Park remains silent and Tynecastle tight-lipped. But as any Scottish football fan knows, where there's smoke, there's usually a wee bit of fire. The only question left is whether Kingsley will soon be trading maroon for green, and if so, what that means for the balance of power in the Premiership. One thing's for sure, the Hoops never rest, and neither do the rumors. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.